everybody. We're here to talk about Walther's new CCP pistol. It was announced at the SHOT Show earlier this year and finally has hit the market, and we've got one here. It comes in a typical hard case, nice hard case, with lock, 2 magazines, adjustable tools for adjusting the sights, as well as 2 replacement front sights, a high one and a low one, to replace the medium one that's on there if you need to adjust point of aim. Here is the new pistol. First we'll start out with, the pistol is unloaded. Here's the new CCP. It's got a very nicely stippled grip, contoured. It's got a slide with serrations at the front and the back. Magazine catch is reversible. It does have a viewport where you can see right up in here that you can see if there's a round in the chamber. Picatinny rail at the front. Very similar in looks to Walther's, its big brother, the PPQ, which we'll go ahead and close the slide on this one. And you can see it's significantly shorter than the PPQ and quite a bit thinner. The PPQ holds 15 rounds in its magazine. The CCP holds 8 in a nice stainless steel single stack magazine. Fits flush with a little bit of a finger grip. And also very similar in design to the PPS, which is their current, or their earlier single stack offering. And you can see that it's a little bit, just about the same exact size and length. It's a little bit thicker, but this holds 6 in its factory magazine, and then there's an extended mag, so its flush mag holds 6. Oops. And then the extended mag holds 8. But you can see when you put the extended mag in, it makes it quite a bit longer of a grip. So what you've got is 8 in a much shorter grip, roughly the same slide size, and just a hair thicker. And of course it's the grip that's difficult to hide when you're trying to conceal carry a pistol. A few of the other features of this new offer. Get a couple of these out of the way here. This does have an external safety, which some like, some do not. It's very easy to operate. It operates very smoothly. One of the nice features about it is even when it's in safe, you can still operate the slide, but the trigger is inoperative. One thing, if it's off safe, then it will fire. It also will fire with the magazine removed, so it does not have a magazine safety. It is equipped with a drop safety. The dimensions of this, it's about 5.12 inches high, 6.41 inches long front to back, and 1.18 inches thick. It's got a 3.54 inch barrel and approximately a 5.5 pound trigger, according to Walther's specifications. It does have a long reset, unlike some of the Walther pistols like the PPQ, where, I'll start with the trigger pull, it breaks there. You have to come almost all the way back out before it resets. Oops, I accidentally bumped the safety. So I'll have to do that again with the safety without bumping the safety while cycling it. There's the reset right there. Very difficult to hear, but it's almost all the way out. So this one is not designed to be a competition gun with a short reset, but the trigger pull is very smooth. And it's reasonably light. It's not excessively light for a carry gun, but it's also not a really heavy trigger and difficult to pull. It's very smooth. So it's a pleasant trigger to pull, and it's easy to keep it on target while you're pulling the trigger. Basically, this gun is based similar on the concept of the PPQ. It does have some significant differences. One of the differences of this is the operating mechanism on it. It's gas delayed blowback. So unlike many of the other guns where they're locked breech, This one uses a piston to slow down the cycling of it to give it time for the bullet to leave the barrel and properly complete the cycle. What that allows them to do is use a much lighter recoil spring than they would have to otherwise, which makes it very easy to pull the slide back. So unlike a lot of the other guns in this category, smaller and not in a Carol Blair like 9mm, this one is very easy to rack, which for somebody with smaller hands or a little less strength would be a definite benefit. That does result in a slightly odd takedown procedure. Instead of the slides like are typical on other guns like this, there's a hook at the back, and they provide a tool that you have to use to push this hook up out of the way. And I'll go through that. I'll actually take the gun down. But you have to pull this hook up out of the way to take it down. It's a little bit of a hassle, but it's not that significant to consider the fact that you're not going to try to take the gun down in the middle of a battle. If you're in in a conflict situation and you have a failure that results in you needing to take the gun down to fix it, you're probably going to put the gun away and move on to something else. You're even with a Glock that you can take down in a heartbeat, you're not going to sit there in the middle of a conflict disassembling it to resolve an issue. You're going to put it down and move to something else. So I really don't see that as a negative. When you get into these smaller pistols that are doing compromises to make it a little easier to use, that's a minor issue. So we'll move some of this stuff out of the way and go through the takedown. Also note that this can be done with a screwdriver, a knife, a key. If you had to in some kind of an urgent situation, you could take it down without this little tool. But the little tool is polymer. It's designed to do this very smoothly, and it's designed to do it without damaging the gun. Okay, let's go ahead and I'll show you how this takedown procedure works on this. There's a little tool. I'm going to hook that tool up under this pin right here, lift this up to clear a hook. There's a hook attached to the frame of the gun, and that pin hooks over it. What we're doing is lifting it up to clear it so that we can separate the two pieces. So with the tool, there's a little notch that sticks up on the top of it. I'll rotate it around so that you can see it. You can see that little protrusion. That's what we're going to hook up under that little hook. So we're going to start, first thing you do, of course, confirm that it's empty, pull the trigger. If you don't pull the trigger, you won't be successful in taking it apart. So the next thing we're going to do is take this tool with the little protrusion sticking up, and we're going to slide it up under this hook and lift it up, and at the same time push back in. Now I'm going to hold the tool in with my finger, pull the slide back, and if I can't lift the slide, I'm pulling towards the slide, it means I didn't get the hook successfully. And it does take a few tries to get used to doing this. Now I pulled the slide back, lifting up a little bit, and it came loose. Once it comes loose, then I can drop the tool, pull the slide up, and then holding onto it because it's under spring tension now, pull the slide forward, and it'll come off the gun. Pull off the spring. And what you'll see is the barrel is fixed to the frame. There is a fairly steep feed ramp right here, but don't let that concern you, because unlike your typical locked breech, it's actually feeding fairly straight. Turn this where you can get a better look at it. It's going to feed the round fairly straight in, because the barrel doesn't need to tilt and you don't have to make room for that mechanism. They bring the magazine up a little bit higher. The piston right here is part of the delay mechanism, and this piston, when it's assembled in the gun, it's going to sit level, of course, but it's going to be facing back. So as the gun cycles, until the bullet leaves the chamber, this piston has actually got pressure on it trying to push the slide forward. So it's going to hold the gun closed until the bullet leaves the chamber. As soon as the bullet leaves the chamber, it'll lose that pressure instantaneously. Then the momentum of the case will cycle it back, using the spring, load the next round. So this piston is what they use instead of an extremely heavy spring to slow down the cycling long enough for it to work properly, but not force you to have an overly hard spring to handle. Cleaning it's relatively easy because the barrel's fixed. You have very easy access to it, and the top of the slide cleans like any other slide. One of the things you'll see is right here at the back, there is the drop safety. So it is a drop safe weapon, and this groove contains the striker, and right there is the hook that engages with the sear. So that when you've got it disassembled, you're going to find that the striker is in the protruded position, it's in the fired position. That's not going to hurt anything. When you put it back together and cycle it, it'll pull it back and set it appropriately. One of the things you're going to find with a gun like this is it does appear to have a bit of a break-in period, which is not unusual for smaller guns that have been engineered to make something on them easier. Either make them very small, make them very light, make the slides easy. It's not unusual. And when we took this to the range, it didn't work well with Tula ammo, but it worked fine with Federal white box. I'm imagining after we get a few hundred rounds through this thing, it'll probably eat the Tula like any other ammo. But in the beginning, when you first get it, you may have to put 50, 100, 200 rounds through it to get everything seated in and worn in properly before it works flawlessly. But anything that you're going to carry, you want to do that anyway. You don't want to take a gun that you're going to carry, pull it right out of the box and stick it in your pocket. You want to run it out a little bit on the range anyway. So we'll put updates in the comments later after we've put about 200 rounds through this, and we'll try the Tula again. But it's a very nice gun, very easy to shoot. It was easy to keep on target. It was comfortable. The recoil is very manageable. Overall, it was an extremely pleasant gun to shoot, and we've got some more range footage at the end of the video. So I'm going to go ahead and put it back together. Luckily, putting it back together is a little bit easier than taking it apart. Put the spring on it. Now this can be a bit tricky. There's a hole. Let me show you that right here. If I can get let me get a little bit of light on this. You can kind of see it right here. There's a hole. That piston goes into that hole right there. So what you're trying to line up is three things. You're going to line the piston up with the hole. You're going to line the barrel up with the opening at the front of the slide and line it up on the spring. That's a little bit tricky, but it's not difficult once you get the hang of it. When you hold the slide up, the piston will swivel back and forth. So you just kind of line it up with the hole and drop it down in. So it's going to be very difficult to show you on camera, but I'll try to turn it where I can make it somewhat visible. I'm going to put the slide over the spring, and then as I pull it down, I'm just going to eyeball it. So I've slid the barrel into the front of the slide, and that piston is just kind of wobbling around. I just lift it up a little bit, wiggle it till it just drops into the hole. Okay, I got it to drop into the hole. So now I just pull the slide back until it hangs over a little bit. Now it does kind of require a couple hands, unlike many others that you can just, it's still under spring tension at this point, it wants to fly off to the front. What I'm going to do is, with no tension on it, put the tool back in here and push this rocker forward. And I will tell you that it's easier to do than it's appearing, because when you're doing it, you're not going to be trying to show it on camera. You're just going to focus on just doing it. But you want to push this forward, put the tool in, hold the tool, and the slide will just drop back down. So you see it just drops right back down on. Once it drops down on, you can drop the tool out and it'll lock in place. And it's ready to operate. Again, it probably looked a lot more difficult for when I was trying to do it and trying to show you at the same time, than it'll actually be once you've done it a couple times and you're just focused on doing it, not trying to show somebody else. A couple other features it has. It does have a squared off trigger guard with serrations. So if you're one of the people that does like to use the trigger guard as part of your grip, it supports that. The Picatinny rail, which is a true Picatinny rail, any Picatinny laser or laser light combination will work on it. The sights are combat sights. So as you look at the sight picture, you'll see that there is a gap between the sides of the rear sight and the front post. And that's typical of combat sights, similar to Glock and some of the others, as opposed to competition target sights. It's designed to be much easier to acquire. You know, quicker acquisition, bring the gun up, find the sights, find the target, be able to see a little bit of the target in between it. As you'll see from the range footage, we had a very easy time shooting a nice tight group with this. So overall, it's a pistol I would highly recommend. It works well, and we'll update you again after we've put some more rounds through it of how it handles weaker ammo like the Tula ammo. If you like our video, please subscribe, share, hit the like button. So, it's not as difficult as it looks when you're actually trying to show it somebody in detail. If you just sit down and do it, get a little bit of practice with it, it'll come apart very easily.